Hello, my dear students. I'm so excited to talk to you today because we are going on a special journey, one that will help you learn English in the easiest and most effective way possible. Now, before we dive into the steps, let me introduce myself. My name is Richard, and I've been teaching English for many years. I understand that learning a new language can sometimes feel overwhelming, but I'm here to tell you, you can do it. You can learn English, and I'm going to show you how. Let's talk a little about why learning English is so important. English is spoken by millions of people around the world. It's a global language, which means that no matter where you go, whether it's for traveling, studying, or even working, knowing English will help you communicate and connect with others. Imagine being able to speak with people from different countries, understand English movies or music, or even read books that can open your mind to new ideas. It's like unlocking a door to endless opportunities. But I know what you're thinking. Learning English can feel like a big challenge. Maybe you've tried before and it seemed hard, or maybe you feel nervous speaking in a new language. But guess what? Everyone starts somewhere. Even the best English speakers were once beginners, just like you. What makes a difference is how you approach learning. So here's the good news. I'm going to break everything down for you in a way that is simple, clear, and easy to follow. You don't need to be perfect, and you don't need to rush. The key to learning English, or anything, really, is to take small steps every day. And as we go through this story together, I'll share tips and techniques that will make learning English feel like a fun adventure rather than a difficult task. Remember, it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, making mistakes is part of the learning process. I want you to feel confident, not scared. You're not alone on this journey. I'm right here with you, guiding you through every step. So take a deep breath, relax, and get ready to start learning English the easy way. By the end of this guide, you'll have the tools and the confidence you need to improve your English step by step. Whether you want to understand English movies, talk to friends in English, or use English at work, you'll be ready. Now let's get started with the first step, learning the basic words. But before that, remember, learning English is not just about studying. It's about enjoying the process and celebrating the progress you make, no matter how small it seems. Let's begin this exciting journey together. Now that we've begun this journey to learn English, the first step is simple. Start with basic words. You see, when you're learning a new language, it's like building a house. And just like every house needs a strong foundation, your English needs one too. That foundation is made up of the most common words we use every day. Once you have these basic words, you can begin to understand and communicate in simple conversations. Think about it. How often do you use words like hello, yes, no, please, and thank you? These are words you'll hear and use all the time, so it makes sense to learn them first. When you know these common words, it's like you have the keys to open doors to simple conversations. You don't need to know complicated sentences to start speaking English. You can start with just a few words. Let's go over some basic greetings first, because these are the words you will use every day. Hello, hi. Good morning, goodbye. These are simple, right? Imagine walking into a room and greeting someone in English confidently. It's a small step, but it feels powerful. After greetings, we can learn some basic polite words like please, thank you, excuse me, sorry. These words are not just polite but essential in any language, and learning them will make you feel more comfortable in everyday situations. For example, you can say please when asking for something or thank you when someone helps you. It's these little things that make a big difference when speaking English. Another important set of words to learn is numbers. You may not realize it, but we use numbers every day, whether it's telling time, counting money, or giving directions. Start with numbers from 1 to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Once you have these, you can easily start counting higher. Don't worry about being perfect right away. The more you practice, the better you'll remember them. Now, how do you memorize these new words? Learning words doesn't have to be hard. I'll share with you a simple technique. Repetition. The more you repeat a word, the more it sticks in your mind. It's like hearing a song over and over again until you can sing it without even thinking. So, take the words you want to learn and say them out loud several times a day. For example, if you're learning hello and thank you, practice them in the morning, at lunch, and before you go to bed. Soon, they will come naturally to you. Another helpful trick is to use flashcards. Flashcards are small pieces of paper where you write a word on one side and its meaning on the other. You can make them yourself or use an app on your phone. Look at the word, say it out loud, and then check the meaning. This is a great way to keep practicing and remembering new words. You can carry your flashcards with you and study them whenever you have a few spare minutes, like while waiting for the bus or during a break. Also, try to use these new words in real life. The more you use them, the easier they will become. Say hello to someone in English, even if it's just for practice. Count things in English, like counting your steps as you walk, or say thank you whenever you get a chance. The goal is to make these words part of your everyday life. It's okay if you don't learn 100 words in one day. Even if you learn just 5 new words every day, that's 5 more words than yesterday, and those small steps add up quickly. Don't rush. Take your time and enjoy the process of learning. So remember, the key is to start small with basic words. Learn them, practice them, and use them as often as you can. These words are your first tools to understanding and speaking English. Once you have them, you'll feel more confident and ready to move on to more complex things. But for now, let's focus on these basic words. They are your foundation. Ready? Let's start by practicing a few new words every day, and soon you'll be amazed at how much you can say. Now that you know some basic words, let's move on to the next step. Speaking English every day. Learning words is important, but if you don't practice saying them out loud, it's like learning to swim without getting into the water. You have to speak to improve. But don't worry, you don't need to be perfect. The more you speak, the better you will get, little by little. Let me tell you a story about a boy named Daniel. Daniel really wanted to speak English, but he was shy. He knew some words, like hello, goodbye, and thank you, but he didn't know how to use them in real conversations. He felt nervous, and he was afraid of making mistakes. One day, Daniel's teacher gave him some simple advice. Daniel, you don't need to wait until your English is perfect to start speaking. You just need to practice a little bit every day. Even if you talk to yourself, just say something in English. Daniel thought about this advice and decided to try it. Every morning, he started by saying, "Good morning," out loud. At first, it felt strange because he was speaking to no one, but he kept doing it. When he brushed his teeth, he practiced saying, "I'm brushing my teeth." When he made his breakfast, he said, "I'm eating eggs." Slowly, Daniel got used to hearing himself speak English. It wasn't so scary anymore. The more Daniel practiced, the more comfortable he became. He started speaking English when he was alone, talking about what he was doing or what he was thinking. It was like a little conversation with himself. This helped him remember the words and how to use them. And when he was around other people, like his friends or family, he felt more confident to try speaking in English with them too. But Daniel didn't stop there. He wanted to practice even more, so his teacher told him about some apps and websites where he could practice English with other learners or even native speakers. There are many ways to practice speaking English online these days. For example, there are apps like Hello Talk and Tandem, where you can find people from around the world who want to practice languages. You can chat with them, have voice calls, or even video calls. It's a great way to practice speaking English without feeling too nervous because everyone there is learning just like you. Daniel signed up for one of these apps, and soon he found people who wanted to practice English too. Some were beginners like him, and some were native English speakers who wanted to help others learn. He would talk with them for a few minutes every day. At first, Daniel made mistakes, but his new friends didn't mind. They helped him, and with time, his speaking became much better. Daniel's confidence grew. Every day he practiced speaking, even if it was just for 5 minutes. He realized that the more he practiced, the easier it became. It was like learning how to ride a bike. At first, it feels hard, but once you get used to it, you don't even think about it. You see, the most important thing about learning to speak English is to practice every day. It doesn't matter if you only know a few words or if you make mistakes. What matters is that you try. Like Daniel, you can practice by talking to yourself, by speaking with your friends, or by using apps to talk to others. The more you speak, the more natural it will feel. So here's what I want you to do. Starting today, make a small promise to yourself to speak a little bit of English every day, even if it's just saying hello when you wake up, or good night before you sleep. The more you speak, the more confident you will feel, just like Daniel. Remember, speaking is one of the most important parts of learning a language, and the best way to improve is to practice. So don't be afraid. You can speak to yourself, your family, your friends, or even use apps to find speaking partners. Just keep practicing, and soon you'll notice how much better you are getting at speaking English. Now that you've started speaking a little every day, let's move to the next step, learning basic grammar. I know the word grammar might sound a little scary at first. Maybe you're thinking, do I really need to learn all those rules? But don't worry, it's not as difficult as it sounds. In fact, learning some simple grammar rules will help you form sentences more easily. It's like learning the rules of a game. Once you understand how the game works, you can start playing, and it becomes fun. Let me tell you a little story about a girl named Emma. Emma loved learning new words in English, and she practiced speaking them every day. But one day, She noticed that when she tried to put the words together, something didn't feel right. She would say, I is happy, or she go to school, but she knew something was missing. Even though people could understand her, she wanted to speak more clearly and correctly. So, Emma's teacher explained a simple grammar rule called subject-verb agreement. This might sound complicated, but it's really not. It's just about making sure that the subject, the person doing the action, and the verb, the action itself, match each other. In English, when we talk about one person, we often add an S to the verb. For example, I go to school. She goes to school. See the difference? When we talk about he, she, or it, the verb changes a little. Instead of go, we say goes. So, Emma learned to say she goes to school instead of she go to school. It was a small change, but it made a big difference. Now, let's look at a few more simple sentence structures. Every sentence in English has three main parts: a subject, a verb, and sometimes an object. The subject is who or what the sentence is about. The verb is what they are doing, and the object is the thing they're doing something to. Here are a few basic examples. I eat, subject plus verb. I eat apples, subject plus verb plus object. He reads, subject plus verb. He reads books, subject plus verb plus object. These are simple sentences, but they follow the same pattern. Once you understand this structure, you can start building more sentences on your own. It's like putting together pieces of a puzzle. You have the subject, the verb, and sometimes the object. Once you know where to put each piece, making sentences becomes much easier. Emma practiced these simple rules every day, and soon she was speaking more clearly. Instead of saying, she go to school, she would say, she goes to school. Instead of saying, he eat apples, she would say, he eats apples. It was just a small change, but it made her sound more confident and natural when speaking English. Now, why is learning grammar important? Well, grammar is like the rules that guide how we speak and write in English. It helps you communicate clearly so that people can understand you better. If you know a lot of words but don't know how to use them correctly, it can sometimes be hard for others to understand what you're saying. But if you learn a few simple grammar rules, you'll be able to put those words together in a way that makes sense. The good news is, you don't need to learn all the grammar rules at once. Start with the basics, like subject-verb agreement, and practice using them in your sentences. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. Over time, you can learn more grammar, but for now, just focus on the simple rules that will help you speak more clearly. So, here's what I want you to do. Think about the sentences you say every day. Try to notice the subject and the verb. Are they working together? If you're talking about he, she, or it, remember to add the S to the verb. For example, I play soccer. He plays soccer. They eat lunch. She eats lunch. These small changes might seem like a lot at first, but don't worry. Like Emma, if you practice a little each day, soon it will feel easy. Remember, learning grammar isn't about being perfect. It's about making your English clearer and more understandable. Just like Emma, if you learn and use a few simple grammar rules, you'll feel more confident speaking and writing in English. So don't be afraid to practice. It's all part of the process. Now that you've started learning some grammar, it's time for one of the most fun steps in learning English: watching and listening to English. Yes, you heard me right. Watching movies, cartoons, YouTube videos, and listening to songs or podcasts is a great way to learn English. You might think, how can watching a movie or listening to music help me learn English? But trust me, it's one of the best ways to improve your understanding of how people speak in real life. Let me tell you about my friend Maya. Maya loved watching movies, but she always watched them in her own language. One day, she decided to try watching a movie in English. At first, it was hard for her to understand everything. The actors spoke quickly, and there were so many new words. But Maya didn't give up. She kept watching, and slowly, she began to catch more and more words. Soon, she could understand whole sentences. You see, watching and listening to English helps you hear how people speak naturally. You'll hear how words are pronounced, how sentences flow, and how people express their emotions. Even if you don't understand every word at first, your brain is working hard to catch the sounds and patterns of English. Let's start with something easy. If you're a beginner, I recommend watching cartoons or children's shows in English. Why? Because the language in these shows is simple, the sentences are short, and the characters speak clearly. Cartoons are fun and easy to follow, and you won't feel overwhelmed with difficult words. Shows like Peppa Pig, Dora the Explorer, or Sesame Street are great for beginners. They're designed for kids, so the language is perfect for anyone who is just starting to learn English. If you're feeling a little more confident, you can try watching some English movies with subtitles. When you have subtitles, you can read along as you listen. This helps you understand the words better because you can see them and hear them at the same time. Movies like Finding Nemo, Toy Story, or The Lion King are great choices because they are fun to watch, and the language is simple. Don't worry if you don't understand everything the first time. The more you watch, the more you'll learn. And guess what? It's not just about watching. Listening is just as important. Let me tell you another story. There was a boy named Ali who wanted to improve his English, but he didn't have much time to sit and study. So Ali's teacher told him to listen to English songs while he was doing other things. Ali started listening to English songs while walking to school, while cooking, and even while exercising. At first, he didn't understand all the lyrics, but the more he listened, the more familiar the words became. Soon, he could sing along to his favorite songs, and his English improved without even realizing it. Listening to English podcasts is another great way to practice. Podcasts are like radio shows where people talk about different topics. There are many podcasts made just for people learning English. These podcasts are perfect because the hosts speak clearly, and they often explain new words or phrases. You can listen to these podcasts on your way to school or while doing chores. The more you listen, the better you'll get at understanding spoken English. You can try podcasts like The English We Speak or ESL Pod for daily listening practice. Another tip is to watch YouTube videos made for beginners. There are so many channels on YouTube where teachers create videos to help people learn English. Some videos teach new vocabulary, some focus on grammar, and others are just conversations between people in English. Watching these videos will help you see how people use English in real life. You'll hear how sentences are structured, how questions are asked, and how people reply. It's like a free lesson you can watch anytime. Remember, the key is to listen and watch as much as you can. The more you expose yourself to English, the faster you'll learn. Even if you don't understand everything at first, keep going. The more you listen, the more you'll understand over time. Just like Maya, who started by watching one movie, and Ali, who listened to songs, you can use this step to improve your English every day. Here's what I want you to do. Find something in English that you enjoy watching or listening to. It could be a cartoon, a movie, a YouTube video, or even a podcast. Set aside a little time each day, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and just listen. Don't worry if you don't understand everything. Focus on the words you do know and try to guess the meaning of new words from the context. You'll be amazed at how much you learn just by listening and watching. And don't forget about music. Listening to English songs is a fun way to pick up new words. Choose songs that you like, listen to them often, and try to sing along. This will help you with both your listening and your pronunciation. So, make watching and listening to English a part of your daily routine. Whether it's watching a cartoon or listening to a song, you'll be learning English without even realizing it. The more you surround yourself with English, the faster you'll improve. Now that you've been watching and listening to English, it's time for another important step: reading simple stories. Reading is one of the best ways to learn new words and understand how sentences are structured in English. You see, when you read, you're not just learning the meaning of words. You're also learning how those words fit together in sentences, how stories are told, and how ideas are expressed. Let me tell you about a girl named Sophia. Sophia wanted to get better at English, but she found it hard to understand people when they spoke quickly. Her teacher suggested she try reading simple English stories to help her learn at her own pace. Sophia wasn't sure at first, because she didn't think reading would be fun, and she worried that she wouldn't understand the words. But her teacher explained that reading doesn't have to be hard or boring. She told Sophia to start with easy books, the kind written for beginners or young children. These books use simple language and short sentences, so they're perfect for anyone who's just starting to learn English. Sophia decided to give it a try. She went to the library and found a small book with short stories for children. It wasn't a big book, and the sentences were easy to understand. She started reading, and to her surprise, she enjoyed it. The first story Sophia read was about a little dog who loved to play in the park. The words were simple. The dog runs. The dog jumps. The dog is happy. At first, Sophia didn't understand every word, but that was okay. She could guess the meaning of some words from the pictures and the sentences around them. She didn't need to know every single word to understand the story. You see, that's the trick with reading. You don't need to understand every word. When you read a story, focus on understanding the main idea. If you come across a word you don't know, don't stop reading. Keep going, and try to guess what the word means from the other words in the sentence. Over time, you'll start to understand more and more. Sophia kept reading one simple story after another. Each time she read, she learned new words without even trying. And because she was reading at her own pace, she could stop whenever she wanted and think about what she'd learned. As she read more, she noticed something amazing. Her understanding of English was getting better. The sentences she once found difficult now made sense, and she felt more confident using the new words she'd learned. If you're a beginner, it's important to start with easy books or children's stories. These books are written with simple vocabulary, short sentences, and clear ideas. Books like The Very Hungry Caterpillar, Green Eggs and Ham, or Where the Wild Things Are perfect for beginners because the language is simple, but the stories are fun and interesting. Another great way to practice reading is to find graded readers. These are books specifically made for language learners. They are divided into levels, from beginner to advanced, so you can choose a book that matches your skill. The sentences are short, the words are easy, and the stories are designed to help you learn new vocabulary without feeling overwhelmed. For example, a beginner-level graded reader might have a story like, Tom is a boy. He likes to play soccer. One day, he loses his ball. He is sad, but then his friend helps him find it, and Tom is happy again. These kinds of stories help you see how words work together, and they give you lots of examples of simple grammar structures like subject, verb, object. You'll notice that as you read, you'll naturally start to absorb how sentences are formed, how verbs change, and how English speakers express ideas. It's almost like your brain is learning while you enjoy the story. Remember what I said about not needing to understand every word? Don't worry if you see a word you don't know. It's okay to skip it and keep reading. If you really want to understand a new word, you can always look it up later, but don't let that stop you from enjoying the story. Reading is supposed to be fun, not stressful. Let me give you another example. There was a boy named Mark who wanted to improve his English, but he didn't like studying from textbooks. His teacher suggested he read comic books or short stories in English instead. Mark loved comic books, so he started reading them in English. At first, he had to guess what some of the words meant, but the pictures helped him understand the story. The more he read, the easier it became. Over time, he learned lots of new words, and his English got better just by reading comics. So here's what I want you to do. Find a simple story. It could be a children's book, a short story, or even a comic book, and start reading. Don't worry if you don't understand everything right away. Just enjoy the story. If you read a little bit each day, you'll be surprised at how much you learn. Reading helps in many ways. It teaches you new words, shows you how sentences are built, and helps you understand how English works in real-life situations. The more you read, the more natural English will start to feel for you. And most importantly, reading is something you can do at your own pace. You can stop and think about the words or read them over again if you need to. It's like having your own personal English teacher with you all the time. So don't be afraid to start reading today. It doesn't matter if the story is short or long, simple or challenging. What matters is that you're practicing and learning. And remember, just like Sophia and Mark, the more you read, the better your English will become. Happy reading. We've talked about learning basic words, practicing speaking, watching and listening to English, reading simple stories, and learning grammar. But there's one more step that ties everything together: keeping a learning routine. This is one of the most important steps if you want to succeed in learning English. Let me explain why. Imagine you have a friend named Sarah. Sarah loves learning English, but she doesn't have a routine. Some days she practices a lot. Maybe she watches a video, reads a story, or learns new words. But on other days, she doesn't practice at all. Maybe she gets busy, or she just doesn't feel like studying. Over time, she realizes that she's not improving as much as she hoped. Even though she's trying, her progress is slow because she's not practicing every day. Now, let's talk about another student, Alex. Alex also wants to learn English, but he has a different approach. He decides to make a simple learning routine. Every day, he spends a little bit of time practicing. It doesn't matter if he's tired or busy. He makes sure to practice a little bit each day. Sometimes he learns new words, sometimes he listens to an English podcast, and sometimes he reads a short story. Because Alex is consistent and follows his routine, he starts to see real progress. Slowly but surely, his English gets better, and he feels more confident. The difference between Sarah and Alex is not about who's smarter or who works harder. It's about consistency. Alex created a routine and followed it every day, while Sarah only practiced when she felt like it. If you want to see real results in your English learning, it's important to practice every single day, even if it's just for a few minutes. You don't need to spend hours studying English each day. In fact, it's better to practice for just 15 to 30 minutes every day than to study for hours once a week. Learning a language is like planting a seed. You have to water it a little bit every day if you want it to grow. If you only water it once in a while, it won't grow as strong or as fast. Your brain works the same way when you're learning English. If you practice a little bit every day, your brain will remember more, and you'll improve faster. So, how can you create a routine? It's simple. Start by setting small, achievable goals. For example, you could set a goal to learn 5 new words a day. That's not too hard, right? If you learn 5 new words every day, by the end of 1 month, you will have learned 150 new words. That's a lot of progress. You can use flashcards, write the words down, or practice saying them out loud. The important thing is to make learning new words part of your daily routine. Another great goal is to read 1 short story a day or watch 1 short video in English. You don't have to spend hours reading or watching. Just a few minutes a day is enough. The key is to do it regularly. Over time, you'll notice that you're understanding more and more. It will feel amazing when you realize that you're picking up new words, understanding sentences, and even forming your own sentences. Here's another tip. Make a schedule for your English practice. Decide when you're going to practice each day. Maybe you'll spend 10 minutes in the morning learning new words, and then in the evening, you'll listen to a podcast or watch a video. By sticking to this schedule, you'll build a habit of practicing English. And once it becomes a habit, learning English won't feel like work. It will just be a part of your day. Now, I know that learning a new language can feel challenging, and sometimes you might feel like you're not improving fast enough. But that's okay. It's important to remember that making mistakes is part of learning. Nobody learns a new language perfectly without making mistakes. In fact, mistakes are how we learn. Every time you make a mistake, you're getting 1 step closer to understanding the right way to say something. Let me tell you about Tom. When Tom first started speaking English, he made lots of mistakes. He would say things like, he go to the store, instead of he goes to the store. But instead of feeling bad about his mistakes, Tom kept practicing. Every time he made a mistake, he learned something new. Little by little, his grammar improved, and he became more confident in speaking English. Now Tom speaks English fluently, and he's not afraid to make mistakes because he knows they're part of the learning process. Just like Tom, don't be afraid to make mistakes. If you're practicing your speaking and you say something wrong, that's okay. It's better to speak and make a mistake than to stay quiet and not learn at all. The more you practice, the fewer mistakes you'll make over time. And remember, every mistake is an opportunity to learn. It's also important to be patient with yourself. Learning a language takes time. You won't become fluent overnight, but if you stick to your routine and practice a little bit each day, you'll see progress. Some days will feel easier, and some days will feel harder, but that's normal. The most important thing is to keep going. So, here's what I want you to do. Create a simple learning routine that works for you. Start with small goals like learning 5 new words a day or practicing speaking for 10 minutes. Make it something you can do every day without feeling overwhelmed. Stick to your routine for a few weeks, and soon you'll start to see the results. You'll learn new words, your sentences will get better, and you'll feel more confident in your English skills. And don't worry if you make mistakes along the way. Remember, mistakes are just steps on the path to success. Keep practicing, keep learning, and before you know it, you'll be speaking English with confidence. Now that we've gone through the steps together, let's take a moment to review everything we've learned. I know learning English might seem like a big challenge, but remember, you don't have to do it all at once. With a simple, steady approach, you'll see progress day by day. Let's break it down once more. First, we started with step 1, learning basic words. We talked about how important it is to begin with the most common words, the ones you use in everyday life. Think about greetings like hello, thank you, or goodbye. Think about numbers, colors, and simple objects like book, table, or phone. By mastering these basic words, you're building the foundation for your English. Without a strong foundation, it's harder to move forward. So, start with simple words and practice them every day. Use flashcards, repeat them out loud, and make them part of your routine. Next, in step 2, practice speaking daily. We discussed the importance of speaking English as much as possible. It's not enough to learn words or grammar. You need to actually use the language. The more you practice speaking, the more comfortable you'll become. And remember, you don't always need a partner to practice with. You can speak to yourself, repeat phrases you hear, or even practice in front of a mirror. If you do have someone to talk to, that's even better. But the key is to speak every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. In step 3, learn basic grammar, we explored some simple grammar rules like subject-verb agreement and how basic sentence structures work. Grammar can seem difficult at first, but don't let that scare you. Start with the basics. Simple sentences like, I am happy, or she is playing. Grammar helps you put your thoughts into words in the right way. And as you keep practicing, it will start to feel more natural. Don't rush through it. Take your time with grammar, and you'll see how it makes a difference in your speaking and writing. Then we moved on to step 4. Watch and listen to English. This is one of the most enjoyable ways to learn. You can watch your favorite movies, cartoons, or YouTube videos in English. Listening to real conversations helps you understand how people speak in different situations. It shows you the rhythm, the intonation, and the flow of the language. You can also listen to podcasts or English songs to practice your listening skills. The more you expose yourself to English, the better your understanding will become. Don't worry if you don't understand everything at first. Just keep listening and you'll improve over time. In Step 5, read simple stories. We learned that reading helps you expand your vocabulary and see how words fit together in sentences. Start with easy books or short stories. Children's books are a great option because they use simple words and clear sentences. Remember, you don't need to understand every word right away. Focus on the main idea of the story, and over time, your reading skills will improve. The more you read, the more confident you'll feel using new words in your conversations. Then we discussed Step 6, keeping a learning routine. This is probably the most important step of all. Consistency is the key to learning any language. You don't need to study for hours every day. Even 15 to 30 minutes of practice can make a huge difference if you do it consistently. Set small goals, like learning 5 new words each day or practicing your speaking for 10 minutes. Create a schedule that works for you and stick to it. The more regularly you practice, the faster you'll improve. And remember, it's okay to make mistakes along the way. Mistakes are part of the learning process. They help you grow and understand better. So, we've covered a lot, but let me tell you this. Learning English takes time. Don't rush yourself or get frustrated if you don't see results right away. Language learning is like climbing a mountain. At first, it may feel like a long journey, and the top seems so far away. But if you take it step by step, eventually, you'll look back and realize how far you've come. Every new word you learn, every sentence you say, and every mistake you correct is bringing you closer to your goal. You've already started by listening to this guide, and that's a great first step. But now, it's time to take action. I want you to feel excited about your English learning journey because you can do this. Start today by setting small, achievable goals. Maybe you'll learn 5 new words today, or listen to an English song and try to understand the lyrics. Maybe you'll read a short story or practice speaking in front of a mirror. Whatever you do, just start. Remember, no one becomes fluent overnight. It's a process, and every day you practice, you're getting closer to becoming confident in your English. If you stick to these steps, learning basic words, practicing speaking, studying grammar, watching and listening to English, reading simple stories, and keeping a routine, you'll see results. Trust me, the more you practice, the more natural it will feel. And most importantly, don't give up. There will be days when learning feels hard, and that's okay. Everyone feels that way sometimes. The key is to keep going, even when it's tough. Each small step you take is a victory. You have everything you need to succeed, and I believe in you. So let's get started today. You've got this, and I'm here to guide you every step of the way. Happy learning, and I can't wait to see how far you'll go with your English.